Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Thursday, November 10th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Thursday, November 10th here today. Coming off a big night last night in the world of sports. You had a lot of basketball, you had some hockey, you had some college basketball. It is that time of year. There is a lot of things going on. It was an exciting night last night watching the Brooklyn Nets game as they absolutely dominate the New York Knicks 112-85. Jacques Vaughn gets his first, technically his first win as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, although, technically it's his third win with the Nets since he's been named the interim coach after they fired Nash, obviously, about a week and a half ago. But man, oh man, great win for the Nets. It was a blowout win. I'm not going to mention too much about it now because I am going to talk about it in the first topic today. We got a lot to get to today on this show. We also got a lot of hockey tonight. You got Rangers, Red Wings, as the Rangers look forward and look to get a win, look to play some defense, which we have not been doing over the past couple games, really in the entirety of the season. And I mentioned yesterday, they got to come out with a little bit of energy. They got to come out with a little bit of fire. And you got to come out and, score early, hold on to the lead, get a win, start stacking them up. Because, again, the more and more you start to lose games, the more and more, they start to add up. And now all of a sudden, you look at the standings and it's a bigger and bigger gap. Like, easily, seasons can start to get away from you very easily, even when it's 82 games, even when it's 162 games. Now, I'm not saying if you lose tonight, the season's over. But you do got to start winning, just also for the locker room. Because if you continue to lose, now the locker room's going to begin to get, a little divided. Again, it's not panic time, but it is, you got to start to rack up some wins because, you can't keep losing like this and keep losing and in the same fashion every night where you're blowing leads, you're not playing defense. Trouba's been really struggling, and all those things are occurring. So they're back in action tonight. Look to get a win. Look to get back onto the win column. Look, they're scoring goals. They're doing their job scoring. They're just not playing defense. Both the Nets and the Knicks both have a day off. Knicks will be back in action tomorrow against Detroit. Nets will have 2 days off today, tomorrow, before they head out west to open up a West Coast road trip that will start Saturday afternoon or more Saturday evening, 4 o'clock Eastern, start 1 o'clock out in Los Angeles against the Clippers. They'll have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday, Clippers-Lakers. They'll be at the same arena. Obviously, they share it. So you'll have that coming up, and then obviously, you'll have Knicks, Pistons back at the Garden on Friday. Nets will be obviously out west. Clippers, Lakers. I think they get the Kings. I think they play the Trailblazers. So it's a long West Coast trip, and then they'll come back home for one game, and then they'll head back on the road. So a lot of road games coming up for the Brooklyn Nets. It's Clippers, Lakers, Kings, Trailblazers, then they come home for the Grizzlies, then they go on the road for the 76ers, Raptors, Pacers, and then finally they come home for a long homestand, which will open up against the Trailblazers November 27th. So the next time they got a consistent road stand is all the way at the end of this, homestand is all the way at the end of this month. So a lot of road games coming up for this Brooklyn Net team led by Jacques Vaughn, who made a really nice appearance last night. So with all that being said, let's get to the topics for today's podcast. As I mentioned, it is the day after the Nets-Knicks game here. We're going to get into the Nets. We're going to get into the dominant victory last night. My thoughts and why. I know yesterday I was talking, and believe me, there's still a lot of questions with this Net team. Just because we won one game doesn't mean we're going to win the NBA Finals and everything's all great in the world again. We're still 5-7. We still need to, continue to rack up wins. This needs to become consistent. Now, I'm not saying you got to win every night 112-85. You don't need to dominate teams every night the way they did last night and the way they did against the Wizards. But you do need to consistently start getting wins. And they do have a schedule coming up where if they play like this, they can definitely rack up some wins and get back into the win column and start getting back into a little bit of rhythm. But why last night was a really good sign, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'll tell you why, specifically revolving around Jacques Vaughn and the way this team's playing. Because this isn't just one game. We've seen this over the past couple games, and I mentioned that yesterday. We'll get into it. We'll also get into the Jets. We're going to talk a little bit of football here. Yes, it is the New York Jets bye week. But I'm going to give you, and I'm going to probably record In the Trench with Gang Green podcast later today or tomorrow. I'm going to give you my Jets team MVP so far It is a week 10. Jets got a bye week. It is literally a perfect bye week. We're at the halfway point in the NFL season. 9 weeks down, 9 weeks to go. I'm going to give you my team MVP for offense and my team MVP for defense and give you some numbers and all that good stuff and get you ready for the second half of the season. And then obviously we'll wrap things up with the New York Sports Update. Rangers, Red Wings tonight. Nets, Knicks day off after they battled each other last night and it resulted in a big Nets win. Rangers, Red Wings tonight. And the Isles are also back in action tonight and they'll play the Coyotes at UBS Arena at home. All right, so with all that being said, this is the Bubbs on Sports podcast, and let's get into it. So last night, Nets beat the Knicks in the Battle of New York, 112-85. Nets improved to 5-7 on the year. Knicks fall to 5-6 on the season. And I'll tell you what, say what you want. I know Nets and Knicks fans, they had that little battle. I know Knicks fans can't stand the Nets because at the end of the day, Knicks are the bigger team in the city. But the Nets right now have owned the Knicks. They have. I mean, I saw a stat. It was like the Knicks haven't beat the Nets in like 1,000+ days. The Nets have really, really dominated the Knicks, specifically since Kevin Durant. Everybody has come over, and Kevin Durant has dominated the Knicks. And the Knicks just, they really struggled, and I know, their fans are, obviously frustrated, rightfully so. You go out, you have an embarrassing performance on the road, and again, you start to question the head coach because the Knicks have talent. I'm going to open up with the Knicks here, then I'll get to the Nets because I really want to take a deep dive into their performance yesterday and their dominant victory and what's to come for this team. But the Knicks, they got talent. They have some talent on their roster. It's not like this team is got Frank Ntilikina and all those guys and Taj Gibson and all those players. They got, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, who's played all right to start the year. Although in the first quarter he was scoring at a high rate, but he's definitely making some dumb mistakes. He's had a pretty good start to the year. Jalen Brunson, Cam Reddish, Jericho Sims is a solid player. RJ Barrett, they've got talent, and they've definitely got some young talent. I mean, even Jalen Brunson's on the younger side. Brunson's off to a career start to the season. He's got a career high in points per game so far in his career. He's off to a very good start. He had 14 points last night. It wasn't his best night from the floor shooting. He went 4-14, and he went 1-5 from 3. But still, he's had a good start. You're going to have off nights here and there. He's not Michael Jordan. He's not a legendary player. He's a solid point guard, and he's definitely given the team some stability there, and he's definitely given the team a lot to like from the point guard spot, which has been a spot the Knicks have been really, really wanting for a very long time. And they have all that talent, and all that talent's great, but they're still finding ways to lose games. And a lot of it could be because of Tom Thibodeau. And you do start to question now. Tom Thibodeau in his first year took the team to the postseason, right? And, that was all great. We all knew that they overachieved, but he still got them there in his first year. If you're a head coach and you bring your team to the postseason in the first year, you're going to gain the respect of the fan base, especially if it's a run like the New York Knicks, where they went into the year with the expectation of being absolutely embarrassing, and they went in, they got a 4 seed. They obviously lost to the Hawks in 5 games, but they still got there. Last year was extremely disappointing, but it also could be the fact that, they did just overachieve the year prior. And now this year, I don't even know if it's an argument, more of it's just the fact that this is the most talented roster. And I'm not saying this roster is extremely talented. I'm just saying this is the most talented roster that Tom Thibodeau has been given in his 3-year tenure so far as a Knicks head coach. And they're 5-6. And they're average at best. And that's shown so far. So the questions do start to arise. I'm not saying you got to fire Thibodeau, but you do got to start to, show something here, some sign of life, because you got a schedule coming up that is brutal. You got to play, get the Pistons and Thunder at home, which is, 2 very winnable games. But after that, you got to play the Jazz on the road, Nuggets, Warriors, Suns. Then you get the Thunder, who are winnable. Then it's Trailblazers, Grizzlies, and Bucks. Your rest of your schedule in November is awful. You have about 3 games the rest of the way that are you consider very winnable. You got to turn this thing around because, again, I will continue to say this. You can't let this season get out of hand. If you walk out of November, and I don't even know if this is going to be correct. I don't even know if this is how many games they'll play. But let's say you walk out of November 8-13 or 8-14. Changes then have to start to, you got to come into question there. Changes have to be made. Because their schedule coming up is really, really rough, especially having to go on the road. Now, I know the Warriors are off to a slow start, but they got Steph Curry. They're always going to be a tough team to beat. Trailblazers are off to a blazing start. Nuggets are always a solid team. So the Knicks got to turn things around. Because right now, They've been average at best, and there's nights like last night where you kind of scratch your head. It's not so much the team not playing well. It's kind of, at times it's just the head coach and his rotations and his, just his management overall of the game. So it's definitely interesting. And you got to give some credit to the Nets. And now we shift over to the Nets side of the basketball. And last night might have been last night in the Wizards game was probably one of the best, all-around well-played games for this Brooklyn Nets team. When you look at the offensive side of the ball and you go to the defensive side of the ball. And I will say this. All right, as much as yesterday I came on the podcast, and rightfully so, we're all frustrated as Net fans, at the start of the season, although you get a win like last night and you hope that can really start to elevate this team. We've definitely been better recently. We're 3-2 since Jacques Vaughn's taken over. I believe we've won 3 of our last 4 with the wins against the Wizards and Hornets. You lost to the Mavericks, but you competed against them. You competed against them. You lost by 2. Earlier in the year, you got smoked against them. The defense has been much, much better since Jacques Vaughn's taken over. And you could say what you want. Oh, you've played the Hornets. Hornets got a good team. Mavericks got a very good team. And the Knicks, they got some pieces. I'm not saying the Knicks are the 90s Bulls, but they got some pieces. A lot of it right now seems like it's the coaching with the Knicks because they've got pieces. They've got talent. Now it's the coaching that's got to come through and elevate that talent. And and put them out there in situations where they can win some basketball games. And right now, Tom Thibodeau and his coaching staff's not doing that. And he hasn't done that since his first year. And you can make the argument that this is the most talented team he's had, so he's got to turn it around, as I've mentioned. But with the Knicks, the Nets, their defense has been so much better, and the energy they're playing at has been so much better. And that is a lot of because of the fact that Jacques Vaughn has implemented some new things, has seen some things with Steve Nash. Now he's taken over. He's worked on some things. And this Net defense is never this good under Nash. Let me read you the points they have allowed. The points per game they have allowed since Jacques Vaughn took over as head coach. Let me read you them. So they let up 108 against the Bulls. But again, I mentioned that yesterday. Big reason of that was because of the fact that Zach LaVine just turned into the greatest shooter of all time down the stretch and outscored the Nets in the fourth quarter. Then they allowed 86 against the Wizards, 94 against the Hornets, 96 against the Mavericks, and 85 last night against the Knicks. And by the way, you look at those, you look at that's simple, that's phenomenal. That is how you go out. And by the way, last time they played the Mavericks, they allowed 129 points. Mavericks are a very good team. Very good team. Look at the points per game the Nets were allowing under Steve Nash. Okay? 130, 105, 134, 110, 129, 125, 109. Now look at the games since Jacques Vaughn's taken over. 108, 86, 94, 96, 85. Their defense is on another level right now. And again, maybe that's just a hot streak, but what it tells me is a coach has taken over. He's putting a little bit more of an emphasis on defense, and it's paying off. And it's allowing this Net team to get into a rhythm offense because they're playing ahead early on from games. One thing I could tell you so much about under Steve Nash, there was 2 moments in the game where the Nets would always find a way to fall apart. Always find a way to fall apart. And I have another compliment I want to say about Jacques Vaughn too, about some of his time management last night and his timeout stuff last night. Number one is the Nets always had this problem of getting off the slow starts where first 3 minutes of the game, it would be like a 12-2 start for whoever they're playing. For example, last night, Knicks would get off to a 12-2 lead under Steve Nash. Instead, the Nets get off to a great start, and the Nets actually put up, 38 in the first quarter. They were winning by 16 coming out of the first quarter. They were dominant. There was a time, I think it was like 24-8 at a time. At the time, I think there was a 30 to 12 maybe. It was a blowout. It was a blowout in the first quarter. They got off to a quick start there, right? Under Steve Nash, that wouldn't happen. And then again in the third quarter, and I know the Nets got off to a little bit of a slow start in the third quarter. That was the only quarter where the Knicks outscored them. They outscored them 27-23. It really wasn't much of a big difference. But they would always they would always allow like a 10-0 run to start in the third quarter. Under Steve Nash. Last night, They get off, the Knicks go down, score their first 2 possessions. Jacques Vaughn calls a timeout. That's what I love. I love to see that last night because Steve Nash would always call timeouts after the Nets would go on, or after the opposing team would go on like a 12-0 run, and now it's a 3-point lead for the other team. Oh, let's call a timeout. Now let's call a timeout. Jacques Vaughn last night, anytime he saw the Knicks get a little bit of momentum, he called a timeout. One of my biggest issues with Steve Nash was, and by the way, same thing with Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone takes pitchers out after the damage is already done. Bases loaded, nobody out, so let him pitch through. He lets up a grand slam. Oh, now we take him out. Steve Nash, same thing. Team goes on a 12-0 run. You lose the lead. Oh, now let me call a timeout. Now that the damage is done, let me call a timeout. Jacques Vaughn last night, anytime, and this would be in like a 20-point game, anytime, because again, basketball's a game of runs sometimes. You get on, if it's a 20-point game and you go on a 12-0 run, boom, it's an 8-point game. You're right back in it. Now you got a ball game. So anytime you see a team getting on a run, you got to burn a timeout, and Jacques Vaughn did that last night. I was a real big fan of that, and that keeps the energy within the team. Because the last thing you want is any momentum to get shifted over to the Knicks, get shifted over to the other team, and now all of a sudden it's a 20-point game where you're just playing your game, and now it's a 5-point game just before that, and now you gotta fight to the finish. So I really like to see that, and I think that's a lot of reasons why we see a lot more energy, because this Net team's playing from ahead. They're playing from ahead. They played from ahead. It was a wire-to-wire victory last night. Right? I believe it was a wire-to-wire victory. I think they got off to a quick 4-0 start, wire-to-wire. They led all the way through. So, and that's just big. And the shooting was much better. A lot of positives. I'll say this: they dominated the Knicks in every facet. Field goal percentage, Nets were 48.3%, Knicks 32.2%. 3-point percentage, 41.2%, 27.9%. I'll tell you what, Claxton, got to give some credit to him. Royce O'Neal, got to give some credit to him. And same thing with Kevin Durant. Those were your big rebounders last night. And especially we got a couple good offensive rebounds, which was good. Give us some other chances. Give us some second chances. But man, oh man, 55 rebounds to the Knicks 46. Nets are rebounding. They were also dishing out the ball. They had 30 assists last night to 21. The ball movement's been much better under Jacques Vaughn. Again, this team is playing at such a high level under Jacques Vaughn. Now, am I surprised by that? I think a little bit is the fact that I think it's 2 things. 3 things, actually. I do think there's a lot of credit that has to be given to Jacques Vaughn. I really do. Because he's taken this team, he's put his own little, kind of twist on it in the 5 games, and they've shown a lot of improvements. And the stats show. You don't even have, if you don't want to go down the road of ball movement and do all these things, because you did see at times, ball movements, sometimes present on all teams. But, if you want to just see the improvement, look at the defense. 1 out of 5 games, 1 game, the Nets allowed over 100 points. You remove Zach LaVine from that game, Nets probably win 101 to 88. Not taking away from what Zach LaVine did, but I'm just telling you that it wasn't like the Nets were getting dominated. It was just Zach LaVine caught fire, and sometimes it's going to happen. And that's going to happen, too, coming up. It's not like the Nets are going to hold everybody under 100 points. But in October, the Nets never had a game where they held somebody under 100 points. 4 of the last 5 games, under 100 points. You don't know how pivotal that is in basketball. You don't know how pivotal that is for a team to play defense, step up, score points, get off to big leads, find that rhythm, ball movement, and everything clicks. Everything clicks. And we're seeing that right now. So, again, the ball movement was great, 30 to 21 assists, 55 rather, to 46 rebounds. Shooting percentage was very good. We're good from deep. Seth Curry by far had his best game. He had 23 points, went 6 of 11 from 3. That was by far his best game. That was his 4th game played of the season. With the foot injury, he's a guy that if he can really unlock, that's massive. He's one of the better shooters, and he's one of the best shooters in basketball if he can, when he's on a roll. And that showed last night. And same thing with Joe Harris. Joe Harris last night went 2 of 6 from 3, had 10 points. Even he's a guy, you're still waiting for him to unlock, because when he unlocks, he's one of the best shooters in basketball. So there's a lot of positives to take from this game. And back to my 3 things. Jacques Vaughn, I do think a lot of this does have to do with, him putting his sprinkle on it. And him putting his own little twist on it, rather. Number 2, I think a lot of this also has to do with the fact that Steve Nash is gone, and I do think Kevin Durant and guys in the locker room just did not respect Steve Nash. That's just me. And number 3, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a guy in the room that when he's gone, team plays better, and that's Kyrie Irving. I mean, Kyrie Irving has been out, and even that Bulls game, he did nothing. Since that game, Nets have won 3 of 4, and they're 5-7 now. They were what? 2-6, right? Were they 2-6? 3 of 4 now? Yeah, 2 of 6, 2-6, right? I think they were coming out of that Bulls game. Yes, coming out of that Bulls game, they were 2-6. That's the worst the Nets got, and they're now 5-7. So 3 of 4, and those 4 games Kyrie has been suspended so far, they're 3-1 in. And the ball movement's so much better, and I'll tell you why. Because Kyrie's a ball dominant player. He needs the ball. He's not a very good guy. Addition, assist. He takes it. He drives. He tries to draw a foul. You don't get that same rhythm. Now, when Kyrie catches fire, he's one of the better players in the league, but that's when he catches fire. You're not going to catch fire every single night. So, I just like I like the brand of team basketball. Edmund Sumner. Last night, he shot 70% from the field. I mean, the team collectively shot 48.3%. Last night was just phenomenal. And it's Edmund Sumner doing things. Seth Curry. Even a guy like a Royce O'Neal, who's been a lot better than just a 3-and-D guy. He really has been. He's been a really nice shooter. And Kevin Durant, too. Can't forget about him. He had a triple-double. KD's just KD. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And I'll tell you this, and this is why you like KD a lot more, and this is why KD's a lot more well-respected around the league than Kyrie Irving is. The team's 2-6, right? They've hit rock bottom after that Bulls game, right? Kyrie Irving gets suspended because he's posting hurtful things online, and he doesn't have his head in basketball. Kevin Durant is always, he's going to be dialed in. He's going to do everything he can because all he wants is win. And he's went out, and he's stepped up in a big way. He started the year good. Like, he was good. Through the first 8 games, he was good. He wasn't dominant Kevin Durant, but he was putting up 30 a night consistently. Now, I mean, he's back to being that dominant Kevin Durant the past 4 games, where he's kind of put the team on his back, and this is the results. So, a good win for the Nets. Again, I'm not saying we're going to win the NBA Finals. I never said that. But there is a lot of positives to take, and it does seem like the team, for the time being right now, and I did mention this yesterday, sometimes when interim coaches take over, the players will play hard, really hard for a couple weeks, right? And then the energy kind of dies off a little bit. Right now, the Nets are playing hard. You'll really get to see what this team feels about Jacques Vaughn and everything like that during this West Coast trip, I think, and when you come back home and stuff. Because when you come back home, you got to match up against the Grizzlies. How do they play against a team like the Clippers? How do they play against a team like the Trailblazers, the Grizzlies, those big name teams? They played well against the Mavericks, although they lost. They defended well. They didn't shoot well, but they defended well. Now, how do you play against those other teams? Because you're scheduled too. You got the Trailblazers 2 more times in November. If you come out, of this West Coast, let's just say this. Let's say you come out of this West Coast trip, I don't know, 6-7, 7-7, 8-7, 8-8. Let's say you come out of this West Coast trip 8-8. You win 3 of 4. You beat the Clippers, you beat the Lakers, you beat the Kings, you lose to the Trailblazers. Trailblazers are on fire. They're just off to a great start. Let's say you come out of it 8-8. That home game, that game against the Grizzlies at home will be a big one. You can get the 9-8 there. Now all of a sudden, all right, now you're in a groove. You're above 500. If the team's still playing well defensively, then you can really start to buy into Jacques Vaughn. But right now, the players are buying in, and you hope that this energy can continue. So it's good. It is good to see. And they get the Clippers on Saturday. Clippers will be 7-7. Nets are 5-7. Should be a good matchup there. And they start the West Coast trip. So, West Coast trip, they'll have Clippers Saturday, Lakers Sunday, and then next week it will be the Kings on Tuesday, Trailblazers on Thursday, and then next Sunday will be the next time the Nets are home. So it's a long week and a half here road trip for the Brooklyn Nets, and then they'll finally be back home. I hate West Coast trips. I hate West Coast trips for baseball. I hate them for hockey. I hate them for basketball. Football is the only one. I don't like 4 o'clock games much of football, but if you're going out west, you play a 4 o'clock game, doesn't matter. Watching a basketball game or baseball game or hockey game at 10 Eastern is just stupid. It really is. I don't know. I don't like them. I don't like them. Although you get it out of the way early, and you won't have to take another one till a long time. Baseball, I always say that. Like the MLB, Yankees, I always like when their West Coast trip is earlier in the year, so you just get it done with in the rest of the season. Because then, it stinks like July when the season's in the groove and everything, and it's going great and all that stuff, and then you got to go on a West Coast trip, and you got games starting at midnight. That's never fun. So I always like to get those done earlier in the year. Get them behind you, play the rest of the games on normal timing. But that's just me. So we'll see. Nets right now stand, what are they? The conference, they are 11 seed. So right behind, they're 5.5 out. Bucks are amazing. Bucks are insane. They're 10-1 this season. East is good. The East went from being extremely weak to being pretty strong. Got teams like the Bulls who are 6-7. Again, to start the year, you're not going to get every team's not going to be off to a dominant start. You're going to see some teams struggle. I mean, even the Warriors, they're 4-7, but they're still the Warriors. They're still very talented. They're still very good. Sometimes it takes a little bit. By like the 20th game, what are we right now? We're on like the 12-13 game. By like the 25th game, you'll really even 30th game, you'll really start to see them kind of separate themselves amongst the rest. And then obviously now you get to see too, like the Rockets, the Magic, those teams stink. They're not going anywhere. But the teams like the Nets, where they're kind of borderline right now, you'll get to really know where they're at. 25th game, 30th game, because then once that that's when you can get into your 20 and 22 and like 8, if you're 20-10, if you're like 15-15, that's when you really start to have a really good sample size of where you're at as a team. So good win for the Nets. They win the Battle of New York and continue to dominate the Knicks over the past couple years. All right, so now we move to a little bit of football here, as the New York Jets are on their bye week, but we are still going to get into a little bit of football. I guess a little bit of a preview to our Football Friday show tomorrow. As always, I do it every Friday. Football Friday podcast will be tomorrow, so I guess a little bit of a preview to that is last topic here on a Thursday. Get into a little bit of football. As the Jets hit their bye week, Giants obviously coming off of theirs. They will welcome the Houston Texans to MetLife Stadium this weekend. Jets on their bye week. They'll come out of the bye week and head to Foxborough to play the Patriots. Man, oh man, I wish that game was this week. I have nothing wrong with a bye week. I don't mind bye weeks. I'm not saying it from a standpoint of like this Jet team's going to get cold and stuff or lose some momentum. I'm not saying it from that perspective. I don't like, as a fan, I don't really like bye weeks. I don't. I wish there was, there's football on every weekend. I'll be watching football and I'll be loving Sunday, obviously. Everybody always loves Sunday. But I wish the Jets were on every Sunday. No fan really likes bye weeks. The players like bye weeks. The coaches like bye weeks. But as a fan, you really don't. But that's because we're not out there playing. We're out watching. So it is the bye week. Jets right now are 6-3. And to say that this start of the year has been surprisingly amazing is an understatement. I mean, the fact that the New York Jets go into the bye week 6-3 is simply phenomenal. They have an opportunity to come out of the bye week and beat a New England team and get to 7 wins, and you have an opportunity to welcome the Bears into town and get to 8 wins. I mean, you see people's, predictions the rest of the way, and I'll go more in detail into that. I'm going to record a Trenches pod in the Trench with Gang Green podcast, my Jets podcast. I'll record one of those either today or tomorrow and get it up out there, and that will be kind of my full recap for the beginning of the year. I'll review a little bit of my team MVPs because I'm doing it now, and I'll also give you my schedule prediction, record prediction for the rest of the season. But as for this Jet team, look, they're 6-3 going to the bye week. They're coming off a big win against Buffalo. Their wins this season were against the Browns. They beat the Steelers, Dolphins, Packers, Broncos, Bills. Those are your 6 wins this year. They currently stand, second in the AFC East. The AFC East is close. The AFC East is up for grabs, especially if Josh Allen, and you never want to see injuries, and I hope he's okay, and I do hope that he, is okay, and he does play this week, because as much as, the Bills losing impacts the Jets, you never want to see an injury, especially to a guy that caliber, that good of a player. So you hope that Josh Allen's okay, and you hope he comes back healthy, because that will definitely be, fun to, see down the stretch. But even with him possibly being out now, if the Bills start to maybe lose, if let's say Josh Allen's out a week or two, and the Bills lose to the Vikings and whoever they play next week, and the Jets beat the Patriots and they beat the Bears, Jets are in the driver's seat. The AFC East very well could be, it's wide open right now. It's wide open. Now, when you look at the names, you probably say to yourself, oh, Bills are going to win it. But it's wide open. The Jets just beat the Buffalo Bills. They can win the division. They can. It's possible. Am I saying it's going to happen? Am I saying it's easy? No, it's a close race. You know who else can win the division? The Patriots and the Dolphins, they can win it too. So it is very close, especially if the Patriots beat the Jets on Sunday. Now the Patriots will have beaten the Jets twice, so they'll definitely have the tiebreaker. And, then things really can get interesting. Or next Sunday, I should say. So that's why Foxborough, up in Foxborough against New England, is such a big game. It's probably even bigger. You can make the arguments even bigger than the game at home, just because of the fact that you win that game, you play the Bears. That's probably a win. And then, you're 8-3, and you got to go to Minnesota and you got to go to Buffalo. You find a way to split. I mean, we're talking about possible 11 wins with this team. That's so great. And I was saying this yesterday. I've been saying this. I know everybody else basically has too. But it's great to be talking about the P word, not the D word. Every year going into the bye week, us as Jet fans are always talking about the D word being the draft. We're always talking about the draft. Every year. 3-5 going to the bye week, 3-6. 1-6, 1-7, whatever our bye week lands, we're always going into it 5-6 games below 500. Season's over. You're talking about the draft, whether to tank or not. This year, we're finally talking about the P word, and we're talking about playoffs. I mean, the possibility of this, even just the possibility, even just talking about it. All these years, all we've asked for is to be playing competitive games, play games that matter down the stretch of the season, and the Jets are doing that right now. I mean, these games in November and December are going to be huge for the New York Jets. I mean, geez, the game against New England's massive coming right out of the bye week. How many times have we been able to say that? That's a great feeling. So it's a great time to be a Jet fan and all that stuff. And an interesting topic has come about, amongst Jets fans about who's the team MVP so far throughout the season. And it's great to have so many options. It just shows you how many different players have contributed to these 6 wins so far this year and to the great start that we've had going into the bye week for offense and defense. So I think special teams, it's probably Greg Zuerlein would be the MVP for special teams. But we're going to go to offense and defense. And it's tough. Offense, I could go so many routes with this. I could go so many different ways with this. Defense, I could go so many different ways with this too. Defense, I did. I actually chose 3 defensive players. I couldn't decide between one. I'm going with 3. I'm considering 2 of them, kind of one because of the fact that they're a duo. You probably know what I'm talking about. And the other guy, has just been a phenomenal force up front. But we'll start with the offense. The offense it's been tough because the offense has had a lot of moving parts this year. From quarterback Flacco starting to, Elijah Moore, requesting a trade, him being out, him not playing much of a role, to Corey Davis now being out, to Breece Hall, having off to such a great start, to now him being out for the rest of the year. You bring in James Robinson. Your offensive line with AVT being out. Your offensive line has been all over the place this year. There's been so many moving parts. There really has been so many. Not many people realize it because we're winning, but there's been a lot of every position basically has been impacted, maybe except the tight end spot. Outside of the tight end spot, every position for the Jets has been impacted with an injury or a guy that has been lost for the year. Offensive line, AVT. Max Mitchell, George Fant, all those guys hurt. AVT obviously done for the year. Fant and Mitchell most likely will be back after the bye. Running back, Breece Hall's done for the year. Receiver, I know you didn't lose anybody for the season, but Elijah Moore requested a trade. You got the drama around that. Corey Davis has been out the past 2 weeks, although he should be back. But you've got all these moving parts. And Breece Hall has been phenomenal. And I'll tell you this, my MVP would be Breece Hall if he was still healthy, but I want to pick a guy that's still healthy and a guy that's making an impact right now. Make no mistake, Breece Hall was by far the best. Breece Hall was one of the best players in football to start the year. I mean, let's just tell it like it is. He was averaging 5.8 yards a carry and had 463 yards. I mean, in 7 games, he still leads the team in rushing yards, and the Jets have now played 9 games. So he's been phenomenal. He got hurt. It was terrible. It was such a gut punch. But look, you got to deal with it. James Robinson's been nice. He obviously caught the touchdown pass last week. Michael Carter, has had a couple nice plays as well. The running back game's been fine without Breece. Obviously, Breece adds another element of awesome, but it is what it is. It happens. It's football. You got to overcome it, and the Jets have done a good job overcoming it. So my MVP would be Breece Hall, but since, I got hurt, I wanted to pick a guy that was, I'm going to go with a guy that's healthy right now, impacting the team. And my offensive MVP is Garrett Wilson for the first half of the year. Okay, he leads the team with 521 receiving yards. He's been very, very good. He's had a couple really, really big games, specifically the last 2 weeks. This week you look at his game. This year you look at his game log. To me, he's had 3 really big games. Against Cleveland, he had 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then the last 2 weeks, he had 115 receiving yards against New England, and he had 8 catches for 92 yards against Buffalo. And why I'm so excited to see what Garrett Wilson, and why I'm so anxious for next Sunday to come already, and the Jets to head to Foxborough and play New England, is because him and Zach Wilson are just starting to get that connection. When Zach Wilson took over, his numbers took a little bit of a hit. His numbers took a little bit of a dip when Zach Wilson took over. But now, Zach Wilson's getting the ball to him. He's getting the targets. He's making the plays. And specifically the last 2 weeks against 2 really good passing defenses in New England and Buffalo. Where Buffalo's, I don't care that their secondary is banged up. They're still a good defense. And New England, still got a very good passing defense as well. And him and Zach are on the same page. And the past 2 weeks, he's had a combined 14 targets for way over 100 yards. Almost into the 200-yard range. 115 plus 92. 14 targets for, I could do the math here, plus 92. That would be 207 yards the past 2 weeks. Him and Zach Wilson are getting that connection, and he's been phenomenal. And another thing, too, I'll tell you this. He's doing things that Wayne Corbett didn't do in his rookie year. Wayne Corbett, one of the greatest receivers in Jets history, a guy that was always open, always caught the ball, was that kind of slot guy across the middle that was amazing. Took a lot of hits, had a lot of injuries, had a lot of concussions, but was a phenomenal player for a very long time for that New York Jets team. Garrett Wilson is doing things that Wayne Corbett did in his rookie year. So, and he's on pace. He could very well be a 1,000-yard receiver. When was the last time the New York Jets had a 1,000-yard receiver? I'm going to probably go ahead and say it might have been Brandon Marshall. I know they had none during the Gaze year. I know they had none last year. I don't think they had any last year. I could probably look through the stats, but I think, he's definitely on his way. Not halfway through the season, he's got 521 receiving yards, right? Another 9 games, he gets another 500. Boom, he's over 1,000 for the year, and he's definitely in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But he's also taken over a big role. The last 2 games, Breece Hall has been out, right? Because they beat Denver. Breece Hall got hurt, came home and played New England, and came home and played Buffalo. You knew that the receivers needed to step up. Garrett Wilson has stepped up in a big, big way. And again, him and Zach Wilson they're just starting to get that connection really, really going, and it's so exciting. Garrett Wilson's my offensive MVP so far to start the season. All right, now we go to the defensive side of the ball, and I couldn't choose between the defense has been so dominant. There's been so many pieces, and the offense too. You could go as the offensive line as a whole. You could go with Breece Hall. You could go with Garrett Wilson. You could go with a ton of different guys. Defense, same thing. Defense, you could go with Jeff Ulbrich. The way we all need to fill out an apology form for Jeff Ulbrich. Because what he's done to this defense, turning in from one of the worst defenses in the league to a top 5 defense in all of football, to one of the best, you can make the argument it's the best defense in all of football, is simply remarkable. And give credit to Saleh, too. He's got a lot of say in the defense as well. And whatever, the process that they took last year to have that building year on the defense side of the ball has really, really worked out. So my defensive MVPs are, I chose 3. Sauce, DJ Reed, and Quinnen Williams. Now, if I had to pick one, if I absolutely had to, I'd probably go ahead and say it was Sauce, just because the fact of how good he's been locked down. He's locked down. He's locked down Jamar Chase. He locked down Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. He locked down Allen Lazard. He locked down Cortland Sutton. He shut down Gabe Davis. He shut down Mark Andrews. He's shutting down some of the biggest names receivers in football. Like people out there that say, oh, well, he's good, but, he's shutting down some of the best in the league. People think Tyreek Hill is one of the best players in all league. Sauce Sutton shut him down. Jalen Waddle shut him down. Cortland Sutton shut him down. Jamar Chase with Cincinnati. Him and Burrow, one of the better combos. Oh, yeah, shut Jamar Chase down, too. This week, shut down Gabe Davis, a very good receiver. The list goes on and on. So I would probably go with Sauce, but I got to add DJ Reed and Quinnen Williams because you can't forget what they've done to this team, too. And I'll tell you what, you could put a 4th guy in there as well. And really, he is the team captain. He's the captain. He's the leader of the defense. C.J. Mosley, you could throw him in there as well because what he's done is phenomenal as well. And again, he started off the year too. This defense as a whole, let's just be honest here. The first 3 games of the year, defense was not. Take that back. Game number 1 against Baltimore, they allowed the 2 very explosive plays. That was it. Game number 2, defense was terrible. Jets still found a way to win. Game number 3 was not good. Jets started out 1-2. That Pittsburgh week, something changed. Beat Pittsburgh, then they beat Miami, then they beat Green Bay, then they beat Denver. Their defense was good against New England. Their defense has been good really every year except what? Every game except 2, right? Because they were not good against Cincinnati. They weren't good against Cleveland. Now, they won Cleveland because of the miracle, and their offense and Joe Flacco played great, but that was it. Since then, they've shut down Pittsburgh. They shut down, look at it. 20 points allowed against Pittsburgh, for 17 against Miami, 10 against Green Bay, 9 against Denver, only 22 against New England, game we should have won, and they allowed 17 against Buffalo, who is the best team in football, right? So their defense has been incredible. That's why I want to recognize a bunch of other guys too. You could even make the argument there's other pieces to this as well, but I'm going to go with Sauce, Reed, and Quinnen. Quinnen Williams has got to be in the conversation. You can make the argument Sauce and Quinnen Williams and DJ Reed all could be in the conversation. Now, maybe I take that back a little bit. Sauce will definitely be Defensive Rookie of the Year. Quinnen definitely should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And you could throw DJ Reed in there too for an award. You really could, because what he's done as well has been phenomenal. Now, do I think he's going to win it? No. I just don't think, he's going to, I think, if anything, you'd probably see Quinnen Williams or somebody like that. But what DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner are the best cornerback duo in football. Sauce Gardner's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Quinnen Williams has got to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And that's just how it is. So, it's really phenomenal what this defense has done. And I wanted to read you another number. So PFF, and I'm all right with the PFF grades. I'm not a huge fan sometimes. But Pro Football Focus released their cornerback grades. And the Jets cornerback trio of Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, and Michael Carter II, the Jets have 3 top 15 corners in that secondary, according to PFF. Sauce Gardner's overall grade, 87.8. That's second among corners. DJ Reed's an 80. That's ninth among corners. And Michael Carter, the second MC2, 76.3. That's 15th among corners. When was the last time the Jets had one top 10 corner, top 15 corner? Revis. And he wasn't top 15, he was top 5. He was the best in the league, right? The Jets have 3. And I've always said that about Michael Carter too. Michael Carter is a very underrated corner. DJ Reed and Sauce get a lot of attention, rightfully so. They're the best. They're the best cornerback duo in all football. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you call me biased. They're the best. DJ Reed is a top 5 corner, and Sauce Gardner is a top 5 corner, and together they make the best cornerback duo in football. Period. End of sentence. I don't want to hear anybody else say anything else. Okay, that's just my opinion. Michael Carter has been very underrated, and a very good corner. And he last year was in his rookie year. He was very good. He showed a lot of really, really good things. And a lot of times, when DJ Reed and Sauce are locking down, quarterbacks got to go to that third corner, and sometimes they target that third corner a lot. And Michael Carter stepped up to the challenge. He's been very good. So really, you can make the argument that the cornerbacks as a whole have been an MVP, and Quinnen Williams, you add that to the list as well. So, the Jets have a top 5 defense. They have the best cornerback duo in football. They have potentially the Defensive Player of the Year in Quinnen Williams. They've got a very good linebacker in C.J. Mosley. They've got pieces at basically every level. They really do. And Whitehead, too, last week with the interception. They've got pieces almost every single level of this defense that can do some serious damage, and it is shown. And it is shown against some of the team's best receivers and some of these best offenses in all football. So it really is great. It's great to see. It's been a lot of fun. Those are my team MVPs. Offense, Garrett Wilson. Defense, Sauce, DJ Reed, though I consider them one because they're a duo, and Quinnen Williams as well. And you look at this, you look at the Jets corners as a whole. It's been a lot of fun. So Jets are 6-3 going to the bye. Great time to be a New York Jet fan, and a exciting rest of the season ahead of us. All right, so as for the NFL today, you got the Falcons, Panthers. Falcons come into today's game 2.5-point favorites. Panthers, the underdogs at home. Over under set at 42.5. 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Amazon Prime Video. This is not a great game. Not a great game at all. It is a very. It's all right. I mean, the Falcons are decent. Panthers are bad. Falcons are 4-5. Panthers 2-7. The over under or the 83% of people. 83% of people in the Falcons will win this game. I agree with those people. I think the Falcons win. Panthers are they're not good. Give me the Falcons. I'll take them 23-13. Falcons win. Under on the over-under 42. I think the Falcons get the 10-point victory, and they cover the 2.5 points. Give me Atlanta with the road win on Thursday night. These Thursday night games are really bad, although I have been 8-1 this year predicting Thursday night, so we'll see how it all plays out. As for the NBA, Mavericks, Wizards, I'll take Mavericks tonight. 76ers, Hawks, Heat, Hornets, and Pelicans, Trailblazers. And it's a lot of hockey games on tonight. You got Bruins, Flames, Blue Jackets, Flyers, Sabres, Golden Knights, Oilers, Hurricanes, Senators, Devils. I mean, how about the Devils? They've been amazing. Off to a great start this year, 10-3-0. Best team in the Metropolitan, one of the best teams in all hockey right now. They're playing great, and I got to give a shout out to them. I was hard on them to start the year, really was, because I thought, I just didn't think they had a great, I just didn't think that the talent was really there, but they've been phenomenal. They're third in the all of NHL in points. They have 20 points. Bruins got 22, and the Golden Knights, who have off to a great start, 8-game win streak, they've got 24 points. After a disappointing year for the Golden Knights, they've came to play to start 12-2-0. Islanders, Coyotes, Blues, Sharks, Avalanche, Predators, Kings, Blackhawks. Islanders off to a good start. Devils off to a good start. Two teams not many people did not expect a ton from. I mean, and the Islanders are making a ton of. They're all comebacks. They fight. They battle to the end. Rangers, Red Wings tonight. Over under set at 6. Rangers 6-5-3. Red Wings 7-3-3. 7 p.m. Eastern. ESPN Plus MSG as well. Look for a Ranger win. They got to find a way to hold on to a lead. You got to hold on to a lead. You got to play defense. You goal score all you want. If you can't play defense, you're not going to win games. All right, so as for fantasy football, obviously tonight, Thursday night football, looking forward to it. Should be a good game, hopefully. I mean, not really. It shouldn't be a good game. Good game for fantasy because you do have a couple pieces. I'm sure couple people probably got, Marcus Mariota's going tonight. A guy like a Cordero Patterson could be an option as well. I actually picked him up, although I'm still deciding on whether to play him or McCole Hardman because McCole Hardman's been phenomenal. Your biggest player of the night would be, Cordero Patterson, obviously. He's the best player on that field. He's got the most talent on that field. He's going to be the most impact. He's probably going to make the most impact on that field between, when you look at the two rosters and especially when you look at Carolina. So not a ton. I'll go more in depth tomorrow. It's not many people. I mean, not many people have Falcons and Panthers players. I think some people probably have Dante Foreman because, they picked him up. I'm sure a lot of people have DJ Moore. I would play DJ Moore. I'm sure people have Cordero Patterson and Mariota. So you probably got about 5 players, people got tonight. And, actually, Kyle Pitts, too. Forgot about him, although he's has not had a very good year. So he's a guy, too. Panthers, they've got some talent for fantasy. They just don't have a quarterback, and that's been their biggest issue, and they need an offensive coordinator. And that's a big reason why they're 2-7. And that's why they're where they're at. So it would be interesting if the Panthers are rooting for the tank, or if Panthers fans want tank, or if they want to win, because they're 2-7, and the team like the Lions are also not playing well either. They're 2-6. Well, the thing with the Lions, I'll say this is the Lions they're competitive and they're competitive, right? So Panthers aren't. Panthers have been bad. So it'll be interesting to see the fans' reaction, because I remember when the Jaguars were playing the Bears, every time, I believe it was the Bears, or was it whatever team it was, every time the Bears would score a touchdown, the fans would go crazy because they wanted them to lose, because they wanted to tank. That was the year Trevor Lawrence was the number 1 overall pick, and, because the Jacksonville allowed fans that year, limited capacity, or not just Jacksonville, Florida as a whole, because Tampa was able to have some fans too. But man, oh man, it will be interesting. Falcons are they're weird because they win. They're 5-5, and it's like They're in it, and they're in it for the division. I mean, that's what's crazy. That really is what's crazy. So tonight, Thursday Night Football. Hopefully, it's a little bit better. I mean, the two teams aren't very good. It's a 4-5 team versus a 2-7 team, but hopefully it turns into a decent game. We'll see. Should be interesting. But yeah, as always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.